Okay, well, hi everyone, and thank you very much for watching or listening. It's Liam Hartree back with you today with another episode of the Simply Inspired podcast presenting champions. And today I have a very, very special guest. I really have a truly legendary jiu-jitsu athlete, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, Venla Luukkonen. Hopefully I'm saying that the right way, but I might be murdering that name. I don't know. I apologize if I am. That's actually the most tricky part, by the way, as I was listening to how to say that before. But this lady has some incredible achievements, guys. I mean, she really needs no introduction from me, but very quickly, and I've actually got a list of them here because there's so many. But obviously, we've got the two-time IBJJF World Championships, two-time European Championships, Loki, second place at the IBJJF European Championships in 2018, 2017, 2016, 2015. Second place at the World Championships 2019, 2017, 2016. Guys, I'm not going to list them all. Look at that. That's a list of medals there. You know, look, we've got bronze, silver, gold. That's on Wikipedia. Absolutely amazing achievements. But more importantly, or equally as importantly to that, this lady conducts herself in a wonderful way as an athlete, as a human being, contributing to other people, obviously training them as well. So today we won't literally just be talking about jiu-jitsu. We'll also be talking about the mindset that it takes to reach such a high level in one of the toughest and most skilled sports anywhere in the world. We'll be sharing a little bit of advice for you guys, the viewers, the listeners, anywhere around the world that you could hopefully take and apply in your daily life. Whether you're an athlete in jiu-jitsu, in something else altogether, or even if it's another dream altogether, your education, business, whatever, there'll be some great tips. So stay tuned. And champ, I just want to say, like I said before, thank you for making the time because I do appreciate it. I know you're really busy. So thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you. It was really nice you to contact me, and your pronunciation of my name was pretty good.
Oh,
So
that's
going
good.
for that.
Yes, well, it's something where I listen actually to the names because I speak with people all around the world, and I'm pretty good with all the statistics and everything. But the names, I listen, I practice, I write it down how it sounds, not how it spells. So but no, it is a lovely, lovely name. Oh, and I should have mentioned talking about names that we're joined by your cat as well. Tell me the name again to make sure.
Lusse, I think, yeah, he's over here.
I think that's lovely.
One of the cats.
One of your cats. Well, I love cats. I love all animals, as I mentioned. Anyway, getting into it with what we're talking about today. Now, I would like to briefly talk with you about your beginnings in jiu-jitsu, only because I don't always start at the beginning, by the way, but I think in your case, people see where you are now. You're a superstar. You're achieving incredible things, but obviously it doesn't start that way. And I think anyone who has a dream in the beginning, they're wondering how far they can go with it, especially in those early stages. So I'd like to just go back in time for a minute and just talk about what inspired you to actually begin this journey, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I actually started quite late. I was 24, and I know, like today, when you compete, most of the people who have achieved their black belts, they are under 24. So it's quite a different story. And I had always been an active child, but I didn't do any competitive sports in that way. Like I was in track and field club, or I played football, but it wasn't about the competition or training like a competitive athlete as a young. And then I did a lot of dancing. And when I started to study, I moved to another city and started capoeira first. That's also coming from Brazil. And it's like I think it's kind of a mix of the dance and jiu-jitsu. It was a good pathway to the jiu-jitsu world. But we had this one guy at our capoeira club who did also jiu-jitsu, and sometimes he was showing us some moves, and then he asked a few of us if we would come to and just try the trainings. And this was 2008. And I was one of them who went for the trying the jiu-jitsu, and I was the only one who stuck that time. So from capoeira, then in the beginning, I tried to do a bit of both. My few jiu-jitsu classes, few capoeira. I have been playing the saxophone whole youth, so I was also playing the saxophone. And then, like after a few years, the jiu-jitsu started to take more and more time, and especially when I got my blue belt and competed first time the Europeans, going to the bigger competitions abroad. That was the time I started to really put more effort on the competitive jiu-jitsu. But before that, I thought that the competitions were part of my training as a white belt. I still think that they are part of my training now, kind of the way that keeps the training interesting after all these years. But then I quit capoeira because I didn't have time anymore, and I still play very occasionally saxophone, but it kind of took all the time after the decision that this is the thing I want to do. But I think the competitive side, somehow it's similar to the music. So I have been, even though I didn't compete as much as a child, I had a lot of concerts with the saxophone in different kind of, sometimes solo, sometimes orchestra or big band or something. And I still feel the connection in between playing on the stage and competing. It's kind of the same kind of situation for me.
Okay, very cool. Well, I love the different talents that you have there. I knew a little bit about, starting late and everything, but it's amazing to hear some of the other things you were doing before. Absolutely incredible and really inspirational. Saxophone as well. I didn't know that, and that is really, really cool. I love here in Cyprus, there's some great like bars and things you can go to with the saxophone. Sorry, it's off topic, but as soon as you mentioned that, I love that type of thing. Actually, Kenny G Songbird is one of my favorites, but that's another story altogether. So okay, now you mentioned there about the European championships and when you started taking it a little bit more seriously at that time. I'd like to just focus in on that time just a little bit more because I'm curious about the mental side in terms of what people go through when they realize, okay, I love this, I'm good at doing this, but actually I can take this really far. And it goes from, as you mentioned there, from being a hobby into being like a serious thing. And at that time, though, I know you were taking it more seriously, you were in the Europeans, but did you expect at any time to go as far as you've gone now, if that makes sense?
Yeah. I don't think I really thought that much about like becoming a professional athlete because jiu-jitsu has always been a hobby and it's really serious hobby, but I'm still doing other things as a work. And when I started, there wasn't that much competitions in Finland, or there was a competitions, but especially when I started, there were not so many colored belt female. So I had to travel abroad. So part of the taking part of Europeans was that I wanted to fight women on my level and in my size, and also the open class, just to get fights. Nowadays, there is such a good opportunities, even in Finland, and now I live in Sweden, here as a white belt, blue belt, purple belt, even sometimes as a brown and black belt, but you had to go abroad that time just to have fights. And it went well at the Europeans, and then I participated Worlds same year, and it went well as a blue belt. So I thought this is actually, I didn't thought all the way to the black belt level, but I thought that no, I want to try on the next level. I want to try on the next level. That you kind of get this hunger that I want to see how far this goes, and it became more serious, and it became also routine to participate Europeans and Worlds yearly just to see the level in the world, and because of the other cat, just to see how far I can go. And because I really enjoyed the competition, as I said, I kind of see the similarity to the performing in music. So I thought that this is my performing now, even though it wasn't about the public, but it's the same kind of feeling you get playing a concert and fighting on the mats in a tournament.
Yeah, I understand because is that like well, obviously in terms of being up there in front of people and crowds and everything, doing what you're doing and the preparation, I can see some similarities there. Did the music in that sense help you to be more comfortable with? Because what I mean with this is like you see some people in the gym, right, and they do really really well. And when I'm doing journalism, I'm often around like training camps and things, by the way. But you see, it doesn't always translate to the actual competition and people vary in like how they can handle the pressure. Obviously you handle that very well. So just to be clear on that, so you mean that the music actually helped you like be in front of crowds and things? Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of because I think you have to be nervous. I have been in competitions when I don't get nervous, and it's becoming, then it's just a routine competition, and I still might win, but there is no feeling. And the same thing in the music, that sometimes you can just play, but it's just a routine. Your fingers are doing the movements. But when you are nervous enough, but it doesn't take over, then you get the best performance. And then you know that you care about the situation. And the nervosity in itself, it's not a bad thing. And it also takes time that I've seen now when I coach people, that they go to one competition and decide after that if they are competitive or not, or if the nerves are working or not. And it's really random, I think, in the beginning. Like after 20 matches, you still don't know what's your magic trick, because for some people they really, I'm one of those who had to kind of try to get more aggressive than I normally am. And for some people, they have to be in like a Zen mode to get to control the nerves. That there are really different kind of ways to control your nerves and still get the use from them. You have to be nervous, I think. It shows that you care.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. The music really helped me with it's just a situation that, yeah, I'm there, I'm nervous, but now I'm doing my best performance for the day.
Another thing with that, well, first of all, actually, so I don't get ahead of myself, I'm really glad you mentioned the nerves because like I was saying at the beginning, that's a really valuable life lesson. I mean, if there's people starting out in jiu-jitsu or in the early stages watching this, fantastic. But like I said at the beginning, any sport, that's a really valuable tip, or even in life, that's a really valuable tip. So I don't forget, because the music thing, I think is really cool. Is there an element of like the creativity? So in other words, correct me if I'm wrong about this, but there's a degree of improvising and everything like that as well, I believe, with the saxophone in certain situations. And obviously when you're competing, even if you have a game plan, it changes and things. So I can see in an abstract kind of way how like everything you're doing, whether you said about dancing, the jiu-jitsu, capoeira, everything, it's all actually quite creative in the sense that there's a sense of rhythm and there's a sense of self-expression. I don't really know if that's a question, but I'm just highlighting it because I think that's really cool.
And I think it's also both music, if you're not playing just solo, but normally you play with someone, and the dancing, capoeira, jiu-jitsu, it's also, it might be improvising and reactions to the other person as well, that you're not doing by yourself. And of course in music, you're not trying to beat one another, and there are that kind of music as well, but you try to react if you improvise what the other people are doing. And it's same thing in dance and same thing in jiu-jitsu, that even though when you are competing, you try to be the one taking the initiative and making the decisions, but sometimes you also have to react. You cannot do it just by yourself. So in a way, there is the same essence in performing arts, or the dancing, the playing, the sax, the music, and competition, or sparring in the trainings. That I see the similarities there as well.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that as well, like a pattern across the things you do. I mean, it's really cool. I don't usually get into that with people, because some people have a more sort of rigid mindset. But what you're saying there and obviously you have to have discipline, but I also love the flow aspect, and the improvisation is really cool. Anyway, a couple of other things with this. Obviously, we will talk about some of your key achievements in the moment now. We probably won't have time to talk about them all. We'll be here until next week. We'll pick some highlights. But before we do, I'd like to touch briefly on it's one thing getting to the top of your game for like a little while, and it's another thing staying at the top of your game for as long as you have. And that's a really good definition of success, I think. I'm not saying it's the definition, I'm just saying in terms of championship quality, it's really good. And I'd like to get into some of the things that you attribute that to, as in not just getting there, but staying there and being so consistent, because that's something a lot of people struggle with, and I think it's really valuable to touch on, please.
Yeah, I think that is one of the things people normally dismiss or don't care, that even though you see the people, as you say, it's really interesting. People that win one time something that then disappear, we don't know what happens with them, but people that come back year after year and can perform at the high level, you still have to have kind of hunger to continue. But then I also think that in a way, you have to still think, if I win, if I lose, I still have to do the same thing all over again. That it doesn't really change your training. You still have to do the same daily basis kind of routine things, that the boring part of the training, and find joy in that in a way. And that's now because we have been talking about the music, the same thing in the music, that you just cannot take the next song, but you have to do your scales every day, like this regular training, doing your drills, doing your positional sparring. You cannot skip that, even though you won once. You have to keep going, do exactly the same. It doesn't really change, and you have to like it and love it. And somehow you have to find joy in the making of the same things all over again.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but I really like that the competitions are kind of the. It's not even that I think now it's the big competition coming, but they are like checkpoints, and then you do the same thing again. And of course, you develop and try new things, but still the basics, the grounds are still the same, day after day, year after year.
It makes sense. It does make a lot of sense. I mean, I like that though, because being in the process, again, not to go off on a tangent, but I have noticed that the people who win the most are like happy in the process. You know, you're not just focusing on the results. It's really because obviously the training and everything is where you spend most of your time. So I think that's a valuable lesson. And obviously, in terms of your achievements now, as I mentioned earlier, I'd like to go into that. Now, I got a pretty big question for you here, so I'm sorry about this. But what I usually do when people have achieved as much as you have is, as I mentioned earlier, you know, it's difficult to walk through like every competition for time. So what I usually do is just say to people, which ones are the most special to you? And that's the question. Now I know obviously it's a big question, and I know obviously things like world titles and things might come in there. But what I also find when I get into this is it's like people can bring up competitions that you don't expect as well often. I mean, it's something where you think, okay, really, that's what the one that's matters to them. And I do this partly for the sake of time, but partly also to be a little bit different than people who walk through, because I'm a bit out the box, by the way, champion. I don't even know what the box looks like. So, so that's the other thing. But it's because it's one thing watching the competition, but it's another thing actually being there and feeling it and hearing it and having the whole experience. So that's the other reason I don't hone in on one over here, because you might miss one over here. So now I've given that the context. Which ones are your favorites or the most special to you, basically?
Like the competition moment, or
Yeah, well, a particular win. I mean,
yeah,
because like the world titles might come into it, but there might be others that are
yeah.
equally relevant. So,
I think still the top of the top is when I first time got the invitation to Polaris,
mm,
because that was the first like a bigger super fight, and it was for the first time that it wasn't me entering the jiu-jitsu competition and paying the money and flying somewhere and doing the tournaments, which are, I really love them. But it was first time that this is something on the next level or something different, that you get an invitation, that you have your um, a specific opponent and you train for that moment. Not it's different than training in the tournaments, and just the whole trip, not just the fight, but the whole trip. I traveled together with my coach, who is also my wife, and the time we were in England, just we tried to be there and enjoy the moment, not do too much. And then being there, the whole process of the like the weigh-ins before, day before, and then the competition day, and you have your entrance music, and that's very different to the tournaments. And I think that is also why it's so special, because it was different. And you have the crowd with you in a different way than in a tournament. So yeah, that is one of the that's the most best moment until this far. Then there are other competitions as well, and especially like the first time at the Worlds Finals in the black belt. People who have been in Worlds, you know that there are big teams, and they're like the Alliance, and they are chanting their songs, and 100 people or more know the people. And then when I came as a person from Finland, which is kind of a small jiu-jitsu country, and I know there are maybe 20 people from Finland in the whole audience, the people who have been coming there and coming to compete, and I hear those few people shouting Venla, go Venla, something like really like few voices around this big arena. It's also just the being there with your audience, or the with your friends, with the crowd. That's really special. And it's different when you're fighting. In the fights, during the fight, I'm not thinking that much. I'm not there outside the mats and the audience, or when I have a good day. When there's a bad day, then you have time to think everything else. But when you're in the flow, but somehow the most special moments are like before the matches, when you go there and you feel the people who are with you, even though you go by yourself to the mat. So in those moments, and then after the fight, of course, if you win, it's really cool, and sometimes if you lose, they are still there. So those moments are really precious.
yeah, I love that. I love that. I mean, I love asking that question because you never know which one will come back from people, but also it's really beautiful what you said there about like the people you shared it with and everything and that description. Plus, I could feel the joy from you, when you were like reliving that, I could feel the actual joy. Your face was lighting up. It's lovely. I'm just saying. But also, the other thing, as soon as you were mentioning representing Finland, and actually I forgot to mention that in the intro, so actually I apologize. But in terms of being such a history maker in that sense, being the first Finn to achieve some of the things you've achieved. Obviously, the first black belt, female black belt, I believe, and the first Finn to win the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu World Championship as well. So, like I say, I apologize for that. But how does it feel to, to be part of history in that way and to be the first? Because it's a very powerful thing to represent your country. It's a very powerful thing, I think, to show what women can do as well with that aspect. So basically, how do you feel about that, or what does that mean to you personally?
Yeah, it's in a way, now it's like it's 10 years ago I won the first time as a black belt, and it took a time to realize. I think nowadays I think more of others have been so cool or inspirational or something like that. And it's more now, I think. In the moment I didn't think that much about the I read the articles or the social media. Here's the first, and you don't really get it that you're the first in a way. And I got my black belt just a few months before it, and that was also I was the first the Finnish female to get the black belt, and it was really important, but it didn't feel that much than it feels today, and I don't know how to explain it, but somehow after all these years, it's quite cool. And now I've been living. We moved to Sweden 1 year after that, or 2015. I've been living here from 2015, and sometimes you kind of forget that I'm still Finnish and I'm still proud of Finland, but you kind of forget because it has been so much after that.
Yeah. That's very cool. It really deserves a mention, really, and I'm really glad we can bring that up because it's such a special achievement. I mean, I look at it as I've already said in terms of the inspiration, in terms of showing people what's possible in life, as I've said, which does lead me to another very important topic as well. I mean, obviously, in the time that you've been doing this, I would guess, or from what I've seen, that female competitors in jiu-jitsu has grown. I mean, personally, I would go so far as to say that female sports in general has grown. Whether you look at like MMA or boxing or any of these things, there's more women doing it now than before, which is great. And I'm curious, first of all, well, let's start with one thing. I mean, some of the changes that you've seen in that regard, because you've probably seen it from, as you mentioned, the early days where maybe there's not as many women doing this to now when there's a lot more. So maybe we can talk about like a few of the changes you've seen in the sport, in your side of the sport over these years. Maybe a couple you like, maybe a couple you don't like. I mean, I don't know where that will lead, but I'm sure you've seen a lot of development in your time in the sport as well.
Yeah, I think, as you said, when I started, there were not so many women at all. In Finland that time, I think we had one purple belt and maybe 4 blue belts when I started. And it was really important when there was a competition to see those few blue belts just fighting, because that was the highest level you could see. And then when you went abroad, you actually saw black belts also fighting. And especially in the beginning, it was really important to have camps for women only. We had and I think it's still, but especially back at the time, we had good cooperation with other Finnish high-level athletes, that we organize camps by ourselves to get all of us to train together. And for example, nowadays, I think in England or in the Great Britain, there are women who fight, who are organizing these female open mats, like they are traveling from gyms to gyms, and it's awesome to see this happening. And you have these camps with 50 and upwards female women on the mats at the same time. And I think it's also tells about the change in the martial arts, that it's not anymore, the reputation of martial arts is not that bad in a way, that it's not about the violence or the like the sweaty men in the basement hitting each other and this kind of reputation. And also the newspapers are writing more about the sport and not just about some kind of violence. So it tells about the sports being more professional. I think when you have more women also doing the sports, it tells about the change. And in Finland, we started to have like women's trainings, which were really key to get more women to our gym there. And those almost everybody who came to the women's trainings came also to the regular trainings, but it was really important to get the women start in friendly environment, inviting environment, because before that only the ones who started really just didn't care, but there were always just 1 to maximum 3 girls at the gyms, that you had to do something to change it, but it became more regular. And now also in the like a big tournaments, you have women both when you compete in Sweden or Finland, and when you go abroad, the women black belt matches are really high level matches. They are entertaining. The same way men's matches are entertaining, but you are there on the same level, and it's a really important change for the whole sport. It tells about we have developed a lot.
Well, yes, it does. I mean, the inclusivity and everything is very important, and it's good. Well, it's interesting to hear about, the changes you've seen and how far the sport has come, even in terms of public awareness, I would say. I mean, even in terms of you can walk down the street now and speak to people about jiu-jitsu. You could just stop someone in the street and say, "Hey, have you heard of jiu-jitsu?" And they say, "Oh, yeah, I know something about it," even if it's not everything. But whereas a few years ago, they would be more like, what's that?
Yeah.
So I think that's a really good change as well. Personally, though, do you feel that you've personally influenced or inspired more women to come into the sport? I mean, is that something that you felt? Because personally, I mean, as I said at the beginning, I think you have that really inspirational quality of starting late and showing people that they can do it and achieving everything you've achieved, as I've said before, carrying yourself in a very humble way and all of these things. But do you feel that maybe other girls have looked at this and thought, okay, maybe I could do that as well, like that kind of thing, because of you?
I hope so, and especially the cases when you are really near the people who started at my gym in Finland and people who have started here. And nowadays, me and my wife and 2 guys, we started our own gym. It's like a non-professional gym, so we don't get paid, but it's ours, and it's really cool to have 2 female leaders giving the classes, running the gym, and I hope it also inspires people to start. But I think it's still difficult. It's not like there are tons of women running from the street to start Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I think you still have to work for the same things than 10 years ago, but it's a little bit easier because you have when you come to the sport, you see other women doing that. And if you go to the children's classes, there are the same amount of girls and boys that you really see that you can start now in a young age and both girls and boys can do it. So I think that's also inspirational. And that like one of the women who has started at our place now, she's turning 60, and that's also inspirational that someone who is 60 can still start a sport and train with the young guys. So that's quite cool, I think.
That's really cool. That's really cool. I mean, to be honest, that's something that I love about well, martial arts in general. I mean, you'll know this from running your own gym. I'm really glad you mentioned that because I had that in mind to touch on. But it's a wonderful thing, like whether people go on to compete or not, you know, like you say, even when they're coming into the gym. So like as an example as to why I'm talking about this, you know, you see like a young kid come in there, say if they're like really shy or something, you know, they're not talking to anybody, or you know, their parents are saying, look, can you bring them out a little bit? And whether they go on to compete or not, they've been there like a few weeks or whatever, and you know, they're talking to people and they've come up. Now, things like that, you know, like you're seeing somebody 60 doing it, you know, any age you can start, and they're doing it
Yeah.
for reasons. But this is the thing, going back to what you were saying earlier, is people who don't know about this, they think about the violence and stuff, but actually through these sports, I've seen it being very healing for people, you know, healing. I mean, even with things like the mental health, which is a big problem now.
Yeah.
I don't know how it is in Sweden, to be honest, but where I come from, it's a big problem, you know, where people have like, sometimes they're born with it, sometimes they've used drugs and things, and it's like messed things up, and they have to train or do something physical to bring that back. And then I've seen people heal from that. So it's, I don't know if that's even a question for you, but I'm just saying I think it's beautiful work that you're doing, like running the gym and somebody who's a multiple time champion being in there to show people what's possible. I mean, it's incredible. And I'd like to touch on that little bit of basically what you feel when you see people developing in your gym or in any gym, but especially when you've contributed to them, because that must be a special feeling. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah.
Mm.
And especially when you get also this, you get the young athletic people coming, and they are not really, it's really cool. They are really nice to work with, and you can make a plans for competitions and this kind of. But when you get people who just get really happy when they notice that they can do this with their bodies, because we talk quite a lot with Hanna, my wife, about that. It feels that people don't really have the connection to their bodies anymore, that they don't know what feels good and what feels not good. And when they come to jiu-jitsu and suddenly they have this, I can lift someone, or I can just do a somersault, like just roll, just doing some movement and control my body and control the other person's body. I can be in situations when somebody's laying on top of me, not get panic, but I can get out of there. I can also be in control and find this trust also to other people, because in jiu-jitsu you really have to trust your training partners. You cannot do it by yourself. And we were talking when the corona came, and we have some of our closest friends we have got through jiu-jitsu, and it wasn't allowed to do jiu-jitsu in a while, and somehow we started to talk about this, that it's so different just to talk and not hang out like with your bodies. Just that you don't have to talk always, but you are really near someone, and it's somehow really, like you said, healing to be around people almost every day, and using your body, and then talking afterwards or talking before, a little bit during the trainings, but just to be there and yeah, get to know your body and get to be in your body and feel what it's capable to. So That's I have seen the same thing that you say, that it can be healing for people.
Yeah. It can. I mean, and obviously, I know, don't get me wrong. Like when you're competing, I know that there's the aggression you have to bring out and everything. But like, even so, when I'm talking about the gyms and everything, it's wonderful. And the equality aspect. I mean, you see people in there from every walk of life who come into gyms. I mean, you can have somebody who's a wealthy businessman. You can have a policeman, and you can have a criminal, and you can have this and that, all training next to each other in there. And it's very and I like that aspect if they do a gym the right way, which I'm sure you do. It's very inclusive. So and I mean, it's awesome just the fact you're doing something you love, because I know like running anything like that, it's not easy, by the way, I know. But at the same time, you're around something you love, and you're doing it with your wife, and it's sort of immersed in what you love. And I think that's really cool for people, because so many people have to do things they don't like. And even though, like what you were saying earlier, um, there's like ups and downs, and and sometimes you get bored with the training, you have to find the joy. But you are still doing something that you love, and that's not really a question. I'm just saying I think that's really cool, and that's a really cool lesson, because it shows people that they can be involved in something they love. Now, a couple of other things. I mean, I could go probably to about the hour or so, and then we'll wrap up, because that's enough for people to take in.
Yeah.
But a couple of other things I meant to ask you earlier as well, and I just wanted to touch on this, because earlier we were talking about the improvisation and the creativity, and we've talked about some of your biggest wins. But I also want to talk about like some of the hardest fights or some of the competitions you've had, but not so much to dwell on anything negative, because I don't do that, but it's more like when things don't go to plan, or when not only in the fight, by the way, I also mean like, you're bound to have had times when something's going on in your life outside of the competition, and it's not been ideal, and you have to focus, through that. So I'm just giving the context why I'm asking. And I'd like to touch on like what some of those toughest experiences were, but more like how you got through it, what you learned from it, when something didn't go to plan, because that is
Yeah.
also a true test of championship, true championship. It's not when things go right, but when they go wrong. So there we are.
Yeah. As I said before, I'm not sure if I said it, but I'm like the mindset from the beginning, it has been really easy for me to go to compete. And especially in the beginning, I didn't think that much of the mental side when stepping to the mat. I just did, and it was a lot of improvisation. But then you cannot do it forever, just like that. And the 2017, I got invited to the ADCC. It was in Finland, and that was kind of now there's a possibility to make your dream come true. And during the competition day, already before the match, I was I didn't get the connection to this improvisation, to this just the flow, which I normally get really easily. And it's so weird that I fought, I lost on the overtime, and it was me and my wife and some of the closest training partners who saw that I'm not there, like in the fight, that they see it. And then the people who didn't know me that well just saw that I fought really well. But I felt that I'm not here in the moment. And it was a huge disappointment, because that was like the big competition. I had been in the trials 3 times before that and became second or third all the time that I didn't win the place. And then the day you really have to be there, because that's the chance you get. And I wasn't there. I was there physically. There's a third guy. I was there physically, but not mentally. And after that, I started to think that I also have to train my mind in some way, that I just cannot think that it comes, because it's normally, it comes quite naturally. But I really have to also think how to optimize the the mental side during the competition day when it's not there, because sometimes the physical side is not there either, and you already have this, I had to do this warm up, but how to warm up your mind. And I started to both, I talked to not my coach, my wife Hanna, but we thought that maybe it's time to talk to someone else, because we're kind of too close in a way that we are also wives, that sometimes it could be good to talk with someone else. So we have one friend in Finland who is also doing jiu-jitsu, and talk with him about the mental side. And I got some books, I read them. I know that if I'm still competing, but not that much, but if I would compete in a professional way now, like every week or every other week, I would really like to pay for the sports psychology, or someone who helps with the mental side, because even though it has been quite natural, it's not there always. You really have to work with your mind, and not just during the competition day, but also during the trainings and during the off season, how to prepare your mind, how to train your mind. And it was really hard place to take it there when you have the opportunities to be there in the ADCC Worlds and go all the way on a best day, but not be there mentally the day. That was really like the worst place to have this kind of life lesson, but it was needed.
Mm.
So yeah, for me it has been about that. I have been too it has been too easy many times, and then when it's hard in a really important place, I didn't have the tools.
Okay, I understand. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and it's a really good insight into well, other athletes will know, they'll relate to that, but also it's a really good insight for like the fans and everything. But also, yeah, I mean, the mindset side, it fascinates me so much because I would recommend, I don't want to go off on tangent with this, I would recommend looking into the hypnotherapy if you've ever
Yeah,
come across that with like the subconscious mind and everything. There's another reason why I bring that up. We can talk about that again, but it's I've seen a lot of and experienced by the way, a lot of effects with that. But anyway, that's another
yeah,
story.
I know some of the MMA fighters who have been using the hypnotherapy as a
It's
mental
this
preparation. Yeah,
it's like this because it depends very much on like obviously as you know, some people are very good, some people it's a little
yeah.
bit. But if you choose the right one, it can be very good. But anyway, that's off topic. But yeah, the mental side, I mean, really cool to mention. Um, right, last couple of things, and we'll wrap this up. Obviously, your future plans. We need to talk about that as well because we've been kind of looking back in time and looking at what you have achieved. But I will say, not only to yourself but everyone listening, obviously it's not over yet, guys. There's more to come. So I'd like to talk about. I know you've kind of touched on this with repeating the process and what you said earlier about the training, but nonetheless, having achieved so many things and having done so many cool things, I still think it's very good that people learn this is really a journey, not a destination, in the sense that I'm sure there's still things that you're aiming for from this point forward. So, if there's anything specific there you'd like to mention, I don't mind how far ahead you go in time or whatever, but just to get a little feel for what's next, basically, please.
Yeah, I turned 40 this year, and normally in all the competitive sports you have been retired like the last 10 years or something. But as jiu-jitsu has always been besides my work, I work now as a teacher. Uh, so I haven't stopped training for the competitions. I still compete. I cannot now say 100% sure that which competitions I'm doing because of the life is just a busy place now with the work with the 1 3-year-old, and also my wife has the work. We both have our 100% work, and then we have the gym. But I don't know if I can train without competing. I totally understand people can do that, but for me, it's really important place to go and see where I am and then decide how to develop my game. And the latest bigger competition was the ADCC trials. I still still want to go to the ADCC trials. They are every other year, and now it's mostly to how to organize the life around the competitions, how to when I can travel and when it's not possible. And besides jiu-jitsu, just to make it a bit easier, sometimes to find competitions in Sweden, I started to I have done 2 competitions this far, but go to the freestyle wrestling competitions just to have matches, and that has been really fun because in a way you're nobody there. You can do your wrestling in peace. So I try to get some of the wrestling competitions in Sweden now. It would be nice to go to Europeans when they are now in Lisbon again. I really love Lisbon, so we'll see if we can make it. I still want to do Worlds some year, if not next year, but some year. So I don't think I'm over competitions, but I cannot plan. It's not anymore that I can do everything. I have to choose something that suits the life puzzle.
Yeah.
And probably I have to fight the ones who are under 24 years and black belt and really hungry, but I know I can beat them if I'm there mentally, and if I'm having the best day. I know it's difficult because I cannot do this 100% every day. I know it's difficult. Most of the people do it nowadays as a profession, but I know I can still do it. So not specific competition, but many plans.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's really good because I know it's not easy. I understand that. And today we focused on the positive side, and I know there's also a lot of difficulties that come with achieving anything and life in general. But at the same time, I'm really glad you have those future plans because how much you love it and everything. I also have to say, and I have to say, and I promise this is hand on heart, I'm not just saying it, I really mean, when you said 40, I was like, wow, because I mean, you do look younger, and I really am not saying it to be like, I was genuinely surprised. I thought like 30, you could knock 10 years off that. So, that's obviously another bonus to competing jiu-jitsu, or maybe it's genetics, I don't know. But and I mean that as a compliment, by the way, also because it's not just, you don't mind me saying this, I want to say it's not just like how you look, you have a very positive vibe, and age is just a number anyway, so it doesn't matter. But some people, they buy into it, whereas they get older, they start to feel like, oh, I'm past, and it's not a real thing. So you still have a very positive, youthful energy, and I think that's really cool. I mean, I know that's a strange compliment, maybe, but I think it's really cool.
It's okay. It's cool.
I mean, in a nice way, because you have a very positive vibe, and everything. And I don't know. I mean, it's nice. I mean, in a nice way. So there we are. I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover. I mean, I know with someone who's achieved as much as you. Oh, actually, that's not true. How many cats do you have all in all? Because they keep. Okay, so you've seen them all today make an appearance, and a friendly one. I think that's lovely. I mean, as I said before, I love all animals, so I'm really glad they joined. And to be honest, when I do these things happen, with people's children or people's family, they come in sometimes and people apologize to me, and I say, look, there's nothing to apologize for. I'm glad that they were involved. Now, if people don't want that in there, I can change it. But generally, I think it's nice if somebody walks past because it's and there we go. So beautiful.
I mostly try to prevent her to not cutting the.
Oh, okay.
she's trying to go on the keyboard.
It happens, Venla. Anyway, I want to thank you for your time first and foremost, but not only for your time. I just want to thank you, by the way, for being so open about these things, because we haven't just spoken about the competitions, we've spoken about like your actual whole life and you as a whole person, not just as an athlete. And I think that's really valuable. I'm also going to say, that's what I meant to say to our viewers, anyone who's not following Vanilla, sorry, talking about you in third person, but anyone who's not following, guys, join in the journey. Look her up on social media. Instagram is where I contacted you. Obviously, you're very accessible on there. I'm not sure what other platforms you're on, but basically people can reach out, can't they? So that's the most important thing. Again, I mean that as a compliment because you're very accessible and open for relevant comments, guys. If it's time wasting, she's very busy, so don't do it. But for relevant things, I think it's really nice that people can connect with you because, you know, some people get to the championship level and then they don't really answer anything anymore. And so I think it's really good that you're there for people within reason. So I'm just saying that. So anyone on here who's not following the journey, please follow and, you know, she's not hard to find, guys. So that's that. And other than that, like I say, I hope you have a great evening. I will send you this when it's released as well. So I'll share it. If you could reshare it as well, your side, I will be very grateful for that. And that's about it. I'll be cheering for you. Whatever competition comes next, I'll be cheering for you from Cyprus, and you know, we'll go from there. But thank you again. It's really been a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Been better than I thought. I knew it would be good, but it's been better. So thank you. Take care then. Take care and have a lovely evening. And I'll speak with you soon. Okay.
Thank you. It was really nice of you.
Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.